The transport shuttle vibrated as it approached the massive station hanging in the darkness of space. Kate Morrison pressed her face against the small window and stared at the structure that would be her home for the next 6 months. Artemis 7 was huge, much bigger than anything humanity had ever built. It looked like a giant wheel spinning slowly against the stars, and somewhere inside that wheel, she would have to prove that humans belonged among the galaxy's best pilots. "First time seeing it?" asked the man sitting next to her. His name was Ben Carter, another human pilot from the exchange program. He had kind eyes and an easy smile that made him look younger than his 30 years. "Yeah," Kate said. "It's incredible." "Wait until you see the inside," said Amy Brooks from the seat behind them. She was the youngest of their group at 24, fresh out of the academy with perfect scores in every test. "I heard the training sphere is 3 kilometers across." 3 kilometers of pure zero-G space. The fourth human, Alex Kim, didn't say anything. He just checked his gear for the 10th time, his face serious and focused. Alex had been a test pilot before joining the program, and he treated everything like a life-or-death mission. The shuttle docked with a soft thump, and the airlock hissed open. A tall alien stood waiting for them in the corridor beyond. She had blue skin that seemed to shimmer under the lights, and her eyes were large and dark like deep pools. She wore a uniform marked with symbols Kate didn't recognize. "Welcome to Artemis 7, the alien said in perfect English. "I am Officer Telma. I will take you to orientation." They followed her through corridors that curved upward in ways that made Kate's head hurt if she thought about it too long. The station was spinning to create artificial gravity, but it felt different from Earth's gravity. Lighter. Easier. Other aliens passed them in the hallways, and Kate tried not to stare. There were so many different kinds. Tall ones, short ones, ones with 4 arms, ones that seemed to float inside containment suits filled with gas. The orientation room was large and circular, with seats arranged in rows that curved around a central platform. Kate and the other humans took seats near the back. The room filled quickly with alien recruits, maybe 50 in total. Kate noticed that most of them stayed with their own species, forming small groups that didn't mix. A door opened at the front of the room, and the instructor entered. He was like nothing Kate had ever seen. His body was covered in a hard shell that gleamed like dark metal, and he had 4 arms that moved independently of each other. His head was triangular with large compound eyes that seemed to look in multiple directions at once. When he spoke, his voice clicked and buzzed, but the translator made it sound clear and cold. "I am Commander Vexlar," he said. "I have trained pilots for 70 years. I have seen thousands of recruits pass through this station. Most fail. Many quit. Some die, though we try to prevent that." He paused and let his eyes scan the room. "You are here because your species believes you are exceptional. But I do not care what your species believes. I care only about results." He began to pace across the platform, his 4 arms gesturing as he spoke. "Zero-gravity combat is the most difficult form of warfare in the known galaxy. It requires perfect spatial awareness, instant calculation of 3-dimensional trajectories, and complete control over your body's momentum. Most species take years to become adequate. Some never achieve competence at all." His eyes stopped on the human section. Kate felt the weight of that gaze, even though she couldn't quite tell which way his compound eyes were actually looking. "Humans," Vexlar said. And there was something in his tone that made the words sound like an insult. "Your species submitted an application to this program 3 years ago. The council debated whether to accept you. Many argued against it." He moved closer to their section, and now Kate could definitely tell he was looking at them. "Humans evolved on a high-gravity world. Your bones are heavy. Your inner ear is designed for a single gravity vector. Your species is famous throughout the galaxy for one thing related to zero-G environments. Do you know what that is?" "Oh," none of the humans answered. "Motion sickness," Vexlar said. and several aliens in the room made sounds that might have been laughter. Humans vomit when their environment spins. Your astronauts require medication just to function in microgravity. You are perhaps the least naturally suited species for zero-G operations that has ever applied to this program. Kate felt her face getting hot. Beside her, Ben's jaw was tight. Amy looked like she wanted to say something but knew better. Alex just stared straight ahead, showing nothing. You will begin practical evaluations tomorrow, Vexlar continued. I expect most of you humans will wash out within the first week. Those who remain will likely injure themselves attempting maneuvers their biology cannot handle. But the Council has decided to give you this chance. So I will teach you. I will teach you until you succeed or until you break. That is my job. He turned away from them and began discussing the schedule. Kate barely heard the words. Her hands were clenched into fists in her lap. She had trained for 2 years for this opportunity. She had scored in the top 1% of all human applicants. She had given up everything to be here, and this instructor had already decided she would fail. After the orientation ended, the 4 humans walked together to their assigned quarters. Nobody spoke until they were inside with the door closed. Well, Ben finally said. He seems nice. Amy laughed, but it sounded forced. He's wrong about us. He has to be. Maybe he's not, Alex said quietly. Maybe we really aren't built for this. Kate shook her head. We're here. That means someone believes we can do it. We just have to prove them right. She looked at each of them. Tomorrow, when we go into that training sphere, we show them what humans can do. And what can humans do? Amy asked. Kate smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. We adapt. That's what we've always done. That's what makes us human. Outside the window, the stars turned slowly as the station continued its endless spin. The training sphere was even more massive than Kate had imagined. She floated at the entrance platform and stared into the enormous space that stretched out before her. 3 kilometers in every direction, filled with obstacles, platforms, and structures that moved on tracks she couldn't quite follow. There was no up or down here. No floor or ceiling. Just infinite space in all directions. Impressive, isn't it? Said Officer Telma. She had been assigned as their liaison, a friendlier presence than Commander Vexlar. This is where you'll spend most of your training time. The other recruits were already gathering. Kate counted representatives from 12 different species, each one adapted to space in ways that humans were not. The Delphons moved through the air using tentacles that seemed to know exactly where to grab. The Quarks, beings made of living crystal, calculated every movement with mathematical precision. There were even Nethrons, creatures that lived in gas suits and seemed to flow through zero-G like water. Commander Vexlar appeared on a platform above them. In zero-G, his 4 arms gave him an obvious advantage. He could push off in any direction, while keeping other limbs free for tools or weapons. Today's exercise is simple. His voice crackled through their helmet speakers. Navigate from this entrance to the far platform. You may touch no more than 3 designated contact points. The yellow markers indicate safe contact. Anything else is forbidden. This is not a race. This is a test of control. A Delphon went first. She pushed off confidently, using her tentacles to grab each yellow marker in sequence. Her species had lived in water before adapting to space, and it showed. She moved with fluid grace, each motion deliberate. She completed the course in 12 minutes, touching exactly 3 markers. Aquarix went next. His crystalline body reflected light as he calculated angles and trajectories. Every push-off was perfect, every trajectory exact. He used only 2 contact points and finished in 10 minutes. The other aliens chittered approval. Several more recruits went, each showing the natural advantages of their species. Then Vexlar called the first human name, Ben Carter. Ben took a breath and pushed off from the platform. Kate watched as he moved carefully from marker to marker, using his hands to grab and redirect his momentum. He was competent. She could see that. His training showed. But he was also fighting his instincts. Every time he started to drift, he reached for something to grab. He finished the course in 15 minutes, using all 3 allowed contact points. Adequate, Vexlar said, which from him might have been a compliment. Amy Brooks. Amy did better. She was smaller and lighter, which helped. She pushed off more gently and let herself drift longer between contact points. 13 minutes. 3 touches. Kate saw Vexlar make a note on his pad. Alex Kim. Alex approached it like a math problem, planning each trajectory before moving. He was precise and controlled, never wasting motion. 11 minutes. 3 touches. Several aliens made approving sounds. Acceptable, Vexlar said. Then, his eyes fixed on Kate. Kate Morrison. Kate moved to the entrance platform. Her heart was pounding, but she kept her breathing steady. She had watched the others. She had seen how they moved, and she had seen what they all had in common. They were all fighting 0G instead of using it. "I'm lowering the difficulty setting for you," Vexlar announced to everyone. "We wouldn't want the human to injure herself on her first day." Several aliens made that chittering laugh sound again. Kate felt anger flash through her. But she used it. Let them laugh. Let them think she needed help. She would show them different. Kate pushed off from the platform, but not hard. Just a gentle push that sent her floating into the sphere. The first obstacle was approaching, a slowly rotating column that most recruits had stopped and waited for. Kate didn't stop. She watched it rotate, timed her approach, and then did something that made several instructors lean forward in surprise. She tucked into a ball and spun. Not wild or out of control, but precise. One rotation that threaded her through the gap between the rotating sections. As she came out of the spin, she extended her left leg slightly, which killed the rotation and oriented her toward the next obstacle. She hadn't touched anything. The second obstacle was a field of floating debris. Fake asteroid chunks that moved on random paths. The other recruits had carefully picked their way through, touching off the yellow markers to navigate. Kate watched the pattern for 3 seconds, then pushed off a marker with just her fingertips. She flew into the debris field. A chunk came at her from the left. Instead of panicking or grabbing for something, Kate simply extended her right arm and leg. Her body rotated around her center of mass, and the debris passed by her left side with centimeters to spare. Another chunk from above. She pulled in her arms, and the rotation sped up, letting it pass behind her. Then she extended her arms again to slow the spin. She was dancing through the debris, using nothing but body position to control her rotation and drift. No desperate grabbing. No wasted motion. Just smooth, flowing movement that looked almost lazy. On the observation platform, Officer Telma leaned toward Vexlar. "Commander, she's not using the markers." "I can see that," Vexlar said, and for the first time, his tone was uncertain. Kate approached the final section, a long stretch with no obstacles but several platforms floating at different angles. This was where most recruits used their final contact points to line up for the end platform. Kate didn't touch any of them. She was still moving from that first push off the entrance, still riding that momentum. She just adjusted her body position slightly. A twist here, an extended limb there. Each micro-adjustment changing her trajectory by fractions. She approached the final platform, rotating slowly. Most recruits would have panicked, would have grabbed something to stop the spin. Kate just watched the platform, timed the rotation, and when her feet came around, she simply absorbed the landing with bent knees. She touched down light as a feather on the final platform, perfectly balanced, not even swaying. The sphere was completely silent. Kate looked up at the observation platform, where Vexlar floated with his forearms crossed. She couldn't read his alien expression, but she could feel his attention focused entirely on her. "Time?" he finally asked. 7 minutes, Officer Telma said quietly. And she only touched 2 contact points: the entrance and the landing. That's impossible, one of the other instructors said. She barely used any markers. I'm looking at the recording, Telma replied. She used body position to control her entire trajectory. I've never seen anything like it. Kate pulled herself back to the entrance platform where the other humans waited. Ben was grinning. Amy looked stunned. Alex just nodded slowly, a smile starting to form. Vexlar was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke, and his voice was different. Still cold, but no longer dismissive. Again, he said. I want to see you do it again. Kate smiled. This time, everyone watched. Kate ran the course 3 more times that morning. Each time was smoother than the last. By the 4th run, she completed it in 6 minutes, using only the entrance and landing platforms. She started to experiment, trying different rotations, different body positions. It felt natural in a way she couldn't quite explain. Like her body understood 0G better than her mind did. Commander Vexlar said nothing. But he watched every move. So did the other instructors. They gathered on the observation platform and replayed her recordings over and over, talking in low voices that their translators didn't pick up. All right, that's enough showing off, Ben called to her with a laugh. Some of us still need to practice. Kate returned to the entrance platform and watched as Ben ran the course again. This time he was different. He wasn't grabbing for safety anymore. He pushed off and let himself drift, making small adjustments with his arms and legs. His second run took 11 minutes, better than his first. He was learning. Amy went next. She was a quick study, always had been. Kate watched as Amy tucked into a spin to pass through the rotating obstacle, copying what she had seen Kate do. It wasn't as smooth, and Amy had to touch a marker to correct her trajectory, but it worked. 10 minutes. Alex took the longest to adapt. He wanted to calculate everything, to plan each move. But when he finally let go of that need for perfect control and just trusted his body, something clicked. He didn't move as smoothly as Kate, but he started to flow through the course instead of fighting it. 12 minutes, and Kate could see him smiling inside his helmet. By lunchtime, all 4 humans had improved dramatically. The alien recruits watched them with what looked like confusion. The Delphons still moved better in absolute terms, their tentacles giving them advantages humans lacked. The Quarks were still more precise. But something about the way humans moved was different. Wrong, maybe, but also strangely effective. In the afternoon, Vexlar introduced a new exercise. You've practiced in a safe, controlled environment, he announced. Now we add variables. He activated a control panel, and suddenly the obstacles in the sphere began moving faster. The rotating columns spun at triple speed. The debris field became chaotic. New obstacles appeared, moving on random paths. Same rules, Vexlar said. Navigate to the far platform. 3 contact points maximum. The alien recruits struggled. The Delphon, who had been so graceful that morning, now had to stop and wait repeatedly as obstacles moved into her path. The Quarks miscalculated a trajectory and bounced off a non-designated surface, failing the exercise. One by one, the aliens either failed or took much longer than before. Then it was Kate's turn. She pushed off and entered the chaos. A rotating column spun toward her, much faster than before. Kate didn't try to time it perfectly like she had in the morning. Instead, she reached out with one hand, caught the edge of the column as it spun, and let it whip her around and launch her forward with added momentum. The aliens made sounds of alarm, but Kate was already moving toward the next obstacle. The debris field was a nightmare now, chunks flying in every direction with no pattern. Kate went straight through the middle. She spun, twisted, pulled in limbs, and extended them, using each near miss to adjust her path. A chunk came right at her face. She snapped her head to the side and let it pass so close that it scraped her helmet. Then, she used the rotation from the head movement to dodge another chunk coming from below. She finished in 5 minutes. How? asked Officer Telma from the observation deck. She was reviewing the recording for the third time. "Commander, how is she doing this?" "I don't know," Vexlar admitted, and admitting ignorance clearly bothered him. "Her reactions are too fast. She's not calculating the trajectories. She's just responding." "Look at this part," said another instructor, a Quarix named Zethrin. She pointed at the recording. "When that debris comes at her face, she moves her head a fraction of a second before it would have hit. She's not tracking it with her eyes. She's sensing it somehow." "Impossible," Vexlar said. "Humans don't have spatial sense like the Delphons. They don't have the calculation speed of Quarix. They're just mammals from a gravity well." "Then explain what we're watching," Zethrin said. Ben ran the new course next. He didn't do it as well as Kate, but he adapted quickly. Instead of trying to avoid every obstacle, he started using them. A gentle touch here, to redirect momentum. Catching a spinning column to add speed. He finished in 8 minutes. Amy was even more creative. She was small enough to fit through gaps the larger aliens couldn't use, and she started to see the chaotic debris field as an opportunity instead of a threat. 7 minutes. Alex treated it like a game. Kate watched as he experimented with different approaches, sometimes failing, but always learning. By his third attempt, he was down to 9 minutes. That evening, Quartermaster Drin called a meeting of the senior staff. She was an old Delphon, retired from active duty, but still teaching at the station. She had been watching humans all day, and something about their movement bothered her. It was familiar somehow. She spent hours in the archives, searching through Earth's databases. The humans had provided extensive files about their species when applying to the program. Military records, scientific data, cultural information. Drin dug deep into the cultural files, looking for something she couldn't quite name. Then she found it. "Commander," she called over the communication system. "You need to see this." Vexlar came to her office, along with Telma and Zethrin. Drin had filled her screens with videos from Earth. Humans spinning through the air in something called gymnastics. Humans diving into water with complex rotations. Humans skating on ice, spinning faster than Drin's eyes could track. Humans jumping between buildings in an activity called parkour. Humans performing aerial acrobatics on ribbons of fabric. "What am I looking at?" Vexlar asked. "Entertainment," Drin said. "These are human recreational activities. Sports. Things they do for fun." She played another video, a human child on something called a trampoline, flipping and spinning with obvious joy. "Commander, they've been training for 0G their entire evolutionary history. They just didn't realize it. They just didn't realize it." Vexlar watched the videos in silence. Humans throwing themselves through the air, spinning, rotating, always controlling their bodies, even without ground contact. Always knowing where they were in space. "Their inner ear," Telma said slowly. "It doesn't just detect one gravity vector. It detects acceleration in 3 dimensions. And their proprioception," Zethrin added. "The sense of where their body is in space. It had to be excellent for climbing, for moving through trees. They can feel where their limbs are without looking." Drin nodded. "They evolved to move through 3-dimensional forest environments. They had to track falling objects to hunt. They had to control rotation when they jumped. And then, for thousands of years, they've been practicing these same movements as play, as art, as sport. So when we put them in 0G," Vexlar started. "They don't have to learn," Drin finished. "They just have to let go." 3 weeks later, Commander Vexlar announced the combat simulation. Kate stood with her assigned team in the preparation room, checking her weapons and equipment. The weapons were non-lethal, designed to mark hits with bright paint rounds, but the exercise was as close to real combat as training could get. "Your team is blue," Vexlar explained. Kate Morrison, as team leader. Ben Carter, and 2 Delphon recruits. Palnas and Vortham. You will face Red Team, which consists of 5 veteran trainees I have personally selected. They have months more experience than you. The objective is simple. Eliminate the opposing team or capture their flag station. Kate looked at her team. Ben gave her a confident nod. Palnas and Vortham, the 2 Delphons, looked less certain. They had seen humans move in 0G by now, but they still didn't fully understand it. That was fine. Kate would show them. Red Team will be led by Krath, Vexlar continued. He is my best student. This exercise will demonstrate to all of you the difference between basic competence and true mastery. Kate met Vexlar's eyes. She could see the challenge there. He still didn't believe humans belonged here. He had watched them improve, had seen the recordings, but he thought it was luck or trick. He wanted his best student to prove that humans were still inferior. Understood, Commander, Kate said. We're ready. The simulation zone was a section of the training sphere filled with structures that mimicked a damaged space station. Broken corridors, floating debris, half-destroyed rooms with holes blown in the walls, perfect for 3-dimensional combat. Kate's team entered from the north entry point, while Red Team entered from the south. Spread out, Kate ordered quietly over the team channel. Palnas. Vortham. Take positions at points 3 and 7. Ben. You're with me. We go hunting. The Delphons moved to defensive positions like they had been taught. Good for holding ground. But Kate had no intention of waiting for the enemy to come to them. She and Ben pushed off into the maze of structures. They moved fast, using the broken architecture to build momentum. Kate caught a twisted beam with one hand, whipped herself around it, and launched forward at twice her previous speed. Ben followed, learning to use the environment the same way. Contact, Vortham's voice came through the comms. 3 hostiles, moving on our position. Hold them there, Kate said. Ben, we flank. They split up. Kate went high, if high meant anything in 0G, while Ben went through a destroyed corridor. Kate spotted 2 Red Team members moving toward where the Delphons were defending. They moved carefully, using their thrusters to position themselves, checking corners like they were clearing rooms. Kate didn't slow down. She came at them from what they would think of as above, spinning as she flew. The first Red Team member never saw her. She fired 3 paint rounds while rotating. All 3 hit center mass. He was eliminated. The second one started to turn, started to bring his weapon up. But Kate was already past him. She touched a wall with her foot, killed her momentum, and fired backward over her shoulder. 2 hits. He was out. That's not possible. She heard through the open comms before the eliminated player's channels went dead. Ben had circled around and caught the third hostile by surprise. 3 on 3 now. And Red Team didn't even know where Kate and Ben were. Vortham, Palnas, push forward, Kate ordered. Ben, we go for the flag. Kate flew through the broken station like she had been born there. A corridor blocked by debris? She threaded through the gaps. A room with enemies inside? She came through a hole in the ceiling, spinning, firing as she passed through without stopping. She didn't need to stop. Stopping meant being a target. She found Krath, Red Team's leader, guarding the flag station. He was good, she had to admit. He had positioned himself in a large, open space where he could see all the approaches. He had cover nearby but stayed in the open, confident. When he saw Kate coming, he fired. Kate spun. The paint rounds passed through the space where she had been a moment before. She kept spinning, building rotation. Krath adjusted, leading his target, firing where she would be. But Kate extended her left arm and leg, changing her rotation speed and axis. The rounds missed by centimeters. She was getting closer. Krath had to change tactics. He tried to retreat to cover, using his thruster pack to move fast. But Kate had been building momentum the entire approach. She tucked into a tight spin, rotating faster than most species could even perceive. Then, she extended all her limbs at once, The spin stopped instantly, all that rotational energy converting to linear motion. She shot forward like she had been fired from a railgun, covering 20 meters in a second. Krath's eyes went wide behind his helmet. He fired, but she was too close, moving too fast. She twisted her core, her body becoming horizontal, and passed under his shots by millimeters. Then she was past him, spinning again to kill her momentum and reverse direction. She fired. 1, 2, 3 shots into his back before he could turn around. Krath was eliminated. Kate grabbed the flag and started back toward base. She heard weapons fire on the comms. Ben was in trouble. She changed course, diving through the broken station, building impossible speed. She found Ben pinned down by 2 red team members. They had him trapped in a corridor with crossfire. Kate came through a hole in the wall, already spinning. She fired at the first hostile while upside down, got him in the chest. The second one turned to face her, but Kate had bounced off the wall and was coming from a different angle now. She fired while moving perpendicular to the ground that didn't exist. Both shots hit. "Thanks," Ben gasped. "Flag run," Kate said. "Let's go home." They flew through the station with the entire red team eliminated behind them. Kate felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Joy. Pure, simple joy of movement. This was what humans were made for. Not staying still, not planting their feet, but moving, always moving, through 3 dimensions, like it was the most natural thing in the world. They reached their flag station where Palnus and Vortham stared at them in amazement. "Exercise complete," Commander Vexillar's voice announced. "Blue team wins." Kate planted the captured flag and looked up at the observation deck, where she knew Vexillar was watching. She couldn't see his face, but she could imagine his expression. That was for doubting us, she thought. That was for every human who was told they didn't belong in space. "Blue team." Vexillar's voice came again after a long pause. "Report to Briefing Room Alpha. We need to discuss your tactics." Kate smiled inside her helmet. Now they were ready to learn. The briefing room was full. Kate had expected to meet with just Vexillar, but instead, she found herself facing the entire senior staff of Artemis 7. Quartermaster Drin was there, along with Officer Telma, Zethrin, and 5 other instructors she recognized but had never spoken to. They all watched as Kate's team entered and took seats at the center table. Commander Vexillar stood at the front of the room. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he activated a display screen showing the combat simulation from multiple angles. "I have been training pilots for 70 years, he began. "I thought I understood zero-gravity combat. I thought I had seen every possible approach, every tactic, every style of movement." He played a section of the recording showing Kate's spinning attack on Krath. "I was wrong." The recording continued. Kate watched herself on the screen, spinning and twisting through the broken station. It looked almost unreal, like something from an action movie, rather than actual combat. But every move had been calculated, every rotation controlled. "You don't move like anything we've encountered," Vexillar continued. "The Delphons use their tentacles to grab and redirect. The Quarks calculate perfect trajectories and follow them. The Nethrons flow with currents. But humans..." He paused. "Humans treat zero-G like it's their natural environment. Like you were made for it. Go. With respect, Commander," Kate said carefully. "We weren't made for it. We made ourselves ready for it, without even knowing that's what we were doing." Quartermaster Drin moved forward. "Show them," she said to Vexillar. "She-men." The display changed to show videos from Earth. Kate recognized some of them. Gymnasts spinning through the air, their bodies perfectly controlled. Divers performing complex rotations before entering the water. A dancer on aerial silks, spinning and climbing without ever touching the ground. Children on trampolines, laughing as they flipped. "For thousands of years," Drin explained. "Humans have been practicing these movements. You call them sports, art, entertainment. You teach them to your children as play. You compete in them. You perfect them. You push the limits of what your bodies can do. Another video appeared. A human throwing a ball across a field. The trajectory perfect. You evolved to calculate three-dimensional paths because you needed to hunt, Drin continued. You evolved exceptional body awareness because you climbed trees and rough terrain. Your inner ear detects acceleration in 3 dimensions because you needed to know when you were falling. And then you took all of those skills, Zethrin added, and you practiced them for fun, generation after generation. Your species refined the ability to control your body in 3-dimensional space. You just never had true zero-G to practice in until now. Vexlar turned to face Kate directly. I was wrong about your species. Not just wrong, but deeply wrong. I assumed that because humans didn't evolve in space, you would be poor at operating in space. But evolution doesn't stop with biology. You evolved culturally to master 3-dimensional movement. So what happens now? Ben asked. Now, Vexlar said, we change how we teach zero-G combat. You 4 humans have demonstrated techniques that none of our species developed naturally. Using momentum instead of fighting it. Rotating to dodge instead of stopping. And redirecting. Building speed through contact with structures. These tactics work, and they work better than anything we've been teaching. Officer Telma pulled up another display. We've already begun analyzing your movement patterns. We want to understand how you do what you do, so we can teach it to others. We're making it part of the standard curriculum, another instructor added. We're calling it kinesthetic combat. Some species won't be able to use all the techniques. Their bodies don't work the same way. But the principles should apply across most forms. Kate felt a strange mix of emotions. Pride, certainly, validation, but also something else. Looking at the alien instructors, she realized they weren't jealous or resentful. They were excited. They had found something new. A better way to operate in the environment they had been teaching for decades. They were scientists and teachers first, and they wanted to learn. There's one more thing, Vexlar said. Kate Morrison, the council has approved a new position. We want a human instructor on the permanent staff, someone who can teach these techniques directly and continue to develop them. We want you. Kate's breath caught. Me? But I'm still a student. I've only been here 3 weeks. You've mastered in 3 weeks what takes most species 3 months, Vexlar replied. And more importantly, you understand how to do it instinctively. Instinct can be taught if the teacher understands it well enough. Will you accept? Kate looked at Ben, Amy, and Alex. They were all grinning at her. Yes, Commander, Kate said. I accept. 6 months later, Kate floated in the training sphere with a new group of recruits watching from the entrance platform. Among them were humans, Delphons, Quarks, and half a dozen other species. She had taught this demonstration so many times now that she didn't need to think about it anymore. Her body just knew. She pushed off gently, entered a spin, threaded through the obstacles, used momentum and rotation to navigate the entire course without touching anything except the entrance and the landing. When she touched down on the far platform, she looked back at the recruits. That's the goal, she called to them. Not to fight zero-G, but to flow with it. Not to fear rotation, but to use it. Your species all evolved differently, but you all have bodies that can move in 3 dimensions. You just need to trust them. Alder 5. A young Delphon raised a tentacle. Instructor Morrison, how do we learn to spin like that without getting disoriented? Kate smiled. You stop thinking of orientation as something fixed. There is no up or down in space. There's only momentum and rotation, and the 3-dimensional path you're traveling. Once you accept that, once you really believe it, your body will figure out the rest. She looked up at the observation deck where Commander Vexlar watched. He had become something close to a friend over the past months. He still challenged her, still pushed her to improve. But now it came from respect rather than doubt. "Let's begin," Kate said to her students. "Who wants to go first?" As the first recruit pushed off into the sphere, Kate thought about that first day. The insults, the doubt, the certainty that humans didn't belong here. How wrong they had all been. Humans did belong in space. Maybe they had always belonged here, and they just needed the chance to prove it. She watched the recruit move through the course, awkward and uncertain. That was fine. Everyone started there. But with practice, with patience, with the right teaching, they would learn, they would flow, they would fly, because that's what thinking beings did. They adapted. They overcame. They found new ways to exist in impossible places. And humans? Humans were better at that than anyone had ever given them credit for. The recruit finished the course and looked back at Kate with tentacles waving in excitement. Kate gave an encouraging gesture. "Good," she called out. "Now let's do it again. But this time, try spinning." In the observation deck, Vexlar made a note in his report. "The Human Pilot Exchange Program is the most successful initiative in the station's history. Request additional human instructors for next training cycle. They have changed everything we thought we knew about zero-G operations. They have made us all better." He watched Kate work with her students and added one final line. "Sometimes, the species least adapted for an environment turns out to be the most capable in it. We must never forget this lesson." Quote,